What I do is take you on a quick tour of a number of the different options that we have available in our Stratum solution to fit our flexible information delivery strategy. And I'll do that. I'll start with our web-based viewer that we call Stratum Viewer. And what you're looking at here is a home page that I'll actually zoom in a little bit so you can see that a little better. And you're looking at my home page, which in this particular case allows me to see gross margin and plan performance both and as well as versus prior year's performance. But and on the left, I've got a series of different favorites of mine, different things I can look at and open this up and see different views of information. A typical user might have 4 or 5 of these, so it's very targeted on his role and his responsibilities so that they can take a look at things. And what I'll do is I'll just show you a couple of my favorite views or simple views that will give you an idea of the kinds of things we can do in Stratum. I'll go down here and I'll actually just open my sales and profitability and show you a simple comparative sales view. This view is showing me a rolling 3 months, showing me current month and year-to-date comparisons this year versus last. The simple paradigm in Stratum is click on the blue link and you go down to the next level of detail. And I can continue to move down through my data there. I went from division to region to salesperson. I'm looking comparative analysis. I've got traffic lights, conditional formatting, that kind of functionality available to me. I can also bring different things into this display. For example, if I wanted to get some more product-related information into this display, I can simply search for products, and I'll bring the brand into this particular display. So I just say OK, and now I can drag the brand. Maybe I'll look at my regional sales by or brand by region, and it allows me to look at those regional sales. I can also move things to different axes very easily. So the point of all this is that we want the users to be very easily be able to interact with the data and get to it and do different things with it. Another thing that we're very good at Stratum and with our classic users is the ability for users to control time by column. And if I come up here and say, look at this column and say, well, what I'd like to do is investigate the performance of a particular promotional period. Maybe I'll drive this down to the week level. I'll do it for the current year. And maybe this promotion started a couple of weeks ago. So I'll back up a couple weeks, and then I'll go over here, and I'll go through the current week. I'll update that. And then in the column next to it, I'll actually take last year's stuff, but again, I'll drive that down to the week level. But maybe that promotion actually last year was in a different week based on, or a different set of weeks based on, say, when Easter fell or some particular holiday fell. So I can easily say, hey, I'm going to look at a separate 3 weeks and compare those two things to one another. So that'll allow me now, as I come back and look at my display, the first 2 columns, now I'm looking at the same promotional period this year versus last year. So very easy for a user to control the time in individual columns or across a set of columns in Stratum. So I think that's an important component if you look specifically at the people that we tend to work with here at Sylvan. Another look, just to give you another view of information here, I've got a scorecard kind of look where I've got a number of measures going down the side that look at revenue performance at the month, week, and day level, profit performance at those same levels, some different order counts, yesterday's order counts. Again, drilling on the blue link, I could flip that around, distribution channel by division, maybe put divisions on the side instead. So again, just very simple for people to navigate and do things within here. As I look at other kinds of information I might want to include in Stratum, I certainly am able to cross a number of different areas. And I might say, for example, sell-through analytics. I talked about earlier, I mentioned point of sale information, things like that. We have this idea where I could go ahead here, I'll select a particular customer or group of stores, and I'll bring in all the stores for that customer, and I'm able to see the actual sell-in units versus the retail units, my sell-through percentages. I actually got from this particular retailer, I'm getting a forecast, so I'm comparing forecast performance. I've calculated weeks of supply. So again, just that ability to go ahead and include information both from, say, an ERP system as well as sources outside of your organization, or at least outside of your ERP system. Another interesting, another area that we've talked about is purchasing. Here's the idea of my performance against a purchase plan. I can, bring that plan up to the year level, see how I'm doing by vendor. I can go ahead and, expand that back out by month. I can also see this, I could actually drill down and see individual products here. I could also come at this from, the other angle and see for these products which vendors are supplying those products to me and how they compare to each other versus my plan. So that ability to move dimensions around, a very nice feature. I can also add what we call other measures in here. Here, for example, is I'll just show this measure. I'll bring in the plan per unit cost so that I can see that and see how I'm doing compared to that. So I'm able to add these things. I can drag them around pretty easily, put them wherever I want up in the grid as well. So a lot of different ways for people to interact and a lot of different types of information they could potentially interact with. Another way, and another thing I talked about in strategic information delivery or flexible information delivery is the idea of dashboards. And here you see a series of views around sales in this case, month to date to plan. Down here I've got actual sales followed by adding in my orders as well as my forecast. These dashboards can be active, so I can click on that just like I've been doing before, and I can have a grid, a graph, and I can span areas. Here I've got inventory valuation at my different locations. I've got inventory valuation this year versus last year, and this year at last year's prices. So a lot of different ways I can look at things. Maybe I want to look at my forecast, and I can see where I'm at from a forecast standpoint. And again, I could do this, use this widget drop down. It lets me see this maybe just for my national accounts. So I've got that kind of ability in Stratum to be able to put things up into a forecast or into a dashboard and investigate different areas of the company without having to know a lot about using the Stratum analytical solution, although that's the backbone for what's displayed here. While I'm talking about forecasts, I thought I would pop over here and show you just a real quick view of how you might want to, if you want to interact with the information in Stratum, your ability to actually go ahead and make adjustments to a plan. And here you can see, I'll say I'm the Eastern region guy and I want to adjust my sales plan. So I have a baseline plan here. I'm planning for a next 3-month window here. I've got my customers that I'm responsible for. I can actually make adjustments right at this level, so I could go ahead here and say, no, I'm going to do more, I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to be in the 150 range. I could write that back and push that down. I could actually go all the way to the item level, and that would allow me to see the individual items that customer's selling. And maybe I want to focus on a particular set of items, and this is something that we do a nice job of in Stratum, where I could come in here and I can create lists, and maybe I've got, say, a targeted set of fruit that I'm running a promotion for, and I want to look at the plan specifically for them. So I'll select that targeted fruit list that pairs this down, and maybe I'll flip this around as well. So I'm now looking for that those individual solutions or products. Here's the different customers and what the different customers are doing. I can easily say I just want to take the baseline. I'm going to copy this right from my own display, but this could come, in fact, say from an Excel spreadsheet, something like that, where I want to copy and paste this in. Ultimately, I can go ahead and click a button up here and write that back. Now I'll actually write it back to Stratum, so now I've updated this not only at the item customer level, but at the region level. So it's pushing it up, I'm working at the bottom, and this is rolling it up automatically for me. So I can go back, and I could even drag the region down here. I was the Eastern region. I could make adjustments in total. Maybe I'm just going to make this around 300. I can go ahead and then I could say just write that back and distribute that data, prorate that data across all the detail underneath there. So this is all happening in a guy off-site through a web browser can do all this. You can see it's the same interface we've been using. So we have that planning capability in Stratum that allows people to interact directly with the data as well as do analysis on that data, and then use that plan for sales versus plan comparison, sales versus forecast comparison.
Can they share that information then, Frank?
Absolutely. The information that I have here, in fact, the information that I have in any view, if I came in here and here's a view that's just showing me by sales rep, my sales to plan performance, I could email that information. I can do that. Of course, anyone, and I include a link here, so I can include a link so someone could just come into this view and see it immediately after I've changed the plan. I could put it into Excel just by clicking the Excel button, and I can print that information as easy as well. So you have a lot of different ways to, once you make it, as soon as those adjustments are made, they're available to other Stratum users, whether they're in Stratum or I want to email them or send it to them via Excel. One of the last things that I thought I would show is I'm going to pop into my my Outlook here, and I want to show the alerting or the exception capabilities. And this is the idea that I've set up some business rules, and here I have a business rule. I'm getting information that shows me for customer product category combinations, anything in this display has shown at least 2 periods of declining sales, and actually anything with a red arrow down has shown me 3 consecutive periods of declining sales for this customer product combination. And I might want to alert the sales rep to that, for example, so I can send an email automatically to the sales rep. I could do that for inventory. Anything on this particular alert, every item that's displayed here, I have a low inventory. I have less than a week's supply. Anything with an exclamation point, I'm out of inventory. So here in my demo company, we've got issues. But nonetheless, the idea here is you can set up Stratum to go through your information and drive alerts on significant business rules so that people can work by exception. They don't have to spend their time in the data. When I'm in one of these alerts, here I'm in that declining sales alert, I actually can provide a link that will open a view over the web so I can look at that specific information. Here's that beef that was, I've got three or more consecutive periods of declining sales. If I click on this, it actually spawns a new view that drives that category into the detail of the products and shows me a rolling 12 about how I've been doing with that product. So allows me to see more detail about what's been happening.